Get your popcorn and prepare your recliner because we're about to talk about the most fun topic ever! History! Luna and Celestia were not always Equestria's rulers, as we can tell based on the Hearth's-Warming Eve play. So how did they come about? Were they always alicorns? Well, what exactly are alicorns? Twilight ascended it to alicorn status via the elements of harmony, the magic of friendship, and by creating new magic. Cadance ascended into alicorn status, at least according to Twilight and the Crystal Heart spell, by the magic of love amplified by a necklace owned by a pony named Prismian. As far as we know, there are two ways to ascend into alicorn status. Before we go any further, I'm going to spoil my last theory some in a moment, so if you haven't seen it, skip ahead, you won't miss anything. As a side note, in my last theory, I suggested that Sombra may have once been an alicorn. He also ruled the Crystal Empire and worked with the Crystal Hearts, like Cadance. Maybe at one point he was the rightful king ascended into alicorn status via the magic of love. We know that the alicorns are fallible, as we see with Luna's jealousy that turned her into Nightmare Moon. So maybe he, with the help of something like the Alicorn Amulet, became corrupted and turned evil later on. But what about Celestia and Luna? We know that they are over 1,000 years old, but just how much older, there is no telling. However, Lauren Faust explained that Prince Blueblood is Celestia and Luna's great and maybe even more greats, nephew on their mother's side about 52 times removed, roughly speaking. So if you give each generation an average of around 20 years, which is a little underestimating in my opinion, that puts their birth at least 1,260 years ago. Probably closer to 1,575. But that's assuming that ponies age in the same way that people do. In real life they don't, of course, and physically I doubt they do in the show either. However, Lauren Faust explained that they are horses with human-like brains, meaning that while they would physically mature by the age of 4, they would still need a significant amount of time, like 15 to 20 years, to emotionally and mentally mature. So each generation would probably still be similar in length apart from one another to human generations. As far as we can tell, before Cadance came along, there's never really been any alicorns of significance during Luna or Celestia's lifetimes. Perhaps this isn't the case, but we've never been told otherwise, so I'm just going to go with it. For the longest time I thought about Luna and Celestia's origins, and I thought about it in terms of the alicorns as a race. But then I thought, why couldn't they have just ascended into alicorn status too? That is the only way we know alicorns are made after all. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. I mean, they were once the bearers of the elements of harmony too, right? Celestia herself implies that they were once connected to them. Additionally, in Equestria Girls we see that the elements don't even necessarily have to be present for their magic to work. And in the Cutie Mark Chronicles, we see that the magic of friendship is present long before any of them have ever even seen the elements of harmony. Perhaps this means that Luna and Celestia ascended into alicorn status via the magic of friendship before they ever even discovered the elements. We also see something called the Fire of Friendship in Hearth's Warming Eve. Judging by the name, this is probably another aspect of the magic of friendship. And if these ponies were able to use the magic of friendship, maybe they eventually became good friends with princesses, maybe. After all, in order to use the magic of friendship, you probably need friends. If they did ascend into alicorn status, though, I'm assuming something like this would be the case, because they likely discovered the elements of harmony during Discord's reign. Otherwise, they would have just used them to turn Discord into stone in the first place. And we see that they already had their crowns, their shoes, and whatever these are, ceremonial yokes, mantles, I don't know. Meaning that they were already the rulers of Equestria before Discord came around, and were probably already alicorns. Even after the three tribes began to cooperate in Hearth's Warming Eve, they likely did so out of fear of the Wendigos. Governing an entire land is difficult, let alone founding one. So there were definitely still issues that would be had, wouldn't there be? Maybe they began to recognize that they were beginning to make tension between one another again, and became desperate for a solution so as to keep themselves safe from the Wendigos. So, if the three leaders of Equestria saw that there were two ponies, Luna and Celestia, who embodied the traits of all three races of ponies and the concerns, I could definitely see how they might jump at the opportunity for a solution to their conflict, making them their leaders. Anyway, the main topic I meant this video to be based upon is the origins of Hearts and Hooves Day. I heard a very interesting theory online, and I went and researched it some. Listen closely to what Sweetie Belle says about the Hearts and Hooves Day beginnings.
Potion. We may have given them a love poison. Apparently, some prince a long time ago whipped up this recipe and gave it to this princess he liked. He meant it to be a love potion, but things didn't turn out so well. There's something here about a dragon, the kingdom falling, chaos reigning. Okay, apparently it was all because the prince and princess were so lost in each other's eyes that they couldn't perform their royal duties.
So what can we guess based on this? Hearts and Hooves Day is a holiday celebrated in Ponyville, Equestria. We barely ever hear anything about any places other than Equestria, and they don't exactly seem very knowledgeable about any other countries or what events occur in them. So it seems likely that the kingdom being spoken about here is probably Equestria. Luna and Celestia are well over 1,000 years old, and from what information we are given, no other significant Alicorns have ever been around before Cadance came along. So there is a chance that this princess being spoken about is Celestia herself. Now I know this doesn't exactly look like her, but in my experience, pony historians don't exactly seem like they're known for their artistic accuracy.
Not green hair!
So the kingdom fell, and chaos reigned.
Chaos!
Spirit of chaos?
Chaos.
What event does that sound like?
Chaos, capital of the world.
It'll be chaos! It'll be chaos!
I know chaos reigned can be taken in two different ways in this case. It can be taken as that the kingdom's state was one of chaos, and that makes sense. It is probably the interpretation that the writers expected most of the audience to leave with. But the word reigned is much more commonly used to describe a literal ruling by a political power, like a king or a queen. And when you have a character who is literally, quote-unquote, called the embodiment of chaos, who did in fact rule Equestria at one time, it seems like someone was definitely dropping some kind of hint here. But just what happened? The only other thing of real significance here is something about a dragon. Well, there are quite a few possibilities here. This could be just referring to Discord again. He does resemble a Chinese dragon of sorts, especially with his reptilian leg and tail. Maybe the historian who recorded these events didn't know what to call Discord other than a dragon. But then, Discord is much more powerful than Luna or Celestia. Even if Celestia wasn't incapacitated by the potion, he would have been able to take over the kingdom just fine. Still, the book explains that it was all because the prince and princess couldn't fulfill their duties. So perhaps the problem wasn't that their inability to fulfill their duties opened the door for someone like Discord to take over, because he could have done that anyway, but that their inability to fulfill their duties somehow ultimately caused the creation of Discord himself. Perhaps Discord's origins, the things that make him up like a dragon, is what this line was referring to. But how could that have happened?